Hey, what's up, and welcome to QnA, the show where I take your questions from YouTube and Twitter and answer them here in video format. A lot of questions to get into. You guys really did do your thing on that question prompt. And by the way, if you want to make sure your questions are eligible to be on the show, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you can be notified when I put the question prompt up on Thursday, sometimes Friday mornings, but Thursdays usually. And that way you can be one of the first people to ask the questions. I go through that prompt. I pick about anywhere from 8 to 10 questions every week. That's how that whole process works out. But the first question comes from Johannes, who says this. Q, I love your content. My question is, what are your thoughts on the available free agent or trade candidates available on the defensive line? I wouldn't mind Richardson back, to be honest. Cheers. We'll see. I don't think it's out the realm of possibility that after about 2 weeks of camp, I think they're going to want to see these guys in pads, the interior defensive linemen in pads. They're going to want to see these guys kind of go up against other teams before they make any declaration on if they need to bring another veteran in. I think we'll find out probably by week 3 of camp, but week 2 of the preseason, what the Browns feel about what potentially could be going on in that room, because I think these first couple of weeks of camps, and especially that first week of padded practice, it's going to be very important. I think they're going to take their time on if they need to bring in another veteran defensive tackle. I think they would like to just wait things out and see if a young guy can step up. But if they feel like nobody is at the point to where they can take NFL quality snaps, they got to find somebody. So they will go ahead and do that. But I think they'll give these young guys up front every chance that they possibly can to be able to shore up that spot before they would bring in a veteran. So I don't think it's super likely that they bring in a vet, but in that scenario, if nobody looks like they're quality NFL, like if they can't get 2 quality NFL starters out of this whole group, then they're probably going to decide to go get a free agent or something like that. But that won't be till way into camp. Next question comes from Jack Smith, who says, who do you think the offense will, well, what do I think the offense will look like with Watson out the field, on the field, and when will we see the run utilized as much as normal, or will we see mostly empty set / twins with Kareem in the backfield most of the time? Love the content. I think when Watson's out there, and the reason that Watson will take most of the snaps during preseason, no matter how long the suspension is, unless it's a banishment for like a year or indefinite thing, he's going to take most of the snaps because the offense is going to be expanded when he's out there. Like, yeah, they'll run the normal Kevin Stefanski stuff, everything that you've seen before. All that stuff's not going anywhere. And it will be the same offense. But with Watson out there, you have more that you can go to, right? If you feel like you want to attack a team's secondary, you can go with that as your first option and really expand how you want to go with that. So you'll see more pistol sets. You'll see more empty sets. You'll see different packages, formations, all of that. So, yeah, I think with Watson out there, it's going to be much different. They're going to run a lot of different sets. I think they'll keep a running back on the field almost every down. I mean, even when the Browns go to empty, they always keep a running back on there just in case they want to check into something. But, yeah, I think Watson's going to see a more expanded version of this offense, and that's why it's important to keep him out there in the preseason, is because Jacoby Brissett's really only going to be asked to learn, let's say, like maybe 50% of this offense. Like, he's going to be asked to learn the whole offense, don't get me wrong, but he's going to be asked to execute like 50% of the offense. Like, they're not really going to get that extravagant with it. And even if they do get extravagant on it and they have Jacoby Brissett out there, it's going to be on a game-by-game basis. So there would be something that they practiced in the game week for. So that is why whenever you hear people ask about these how they should divvy up these reps in camp, it's why I don't think it's really that big of a question. It's Watson all the way, because Watson's going to have to execute a much larger amount of this offense when it comes to the percentage of what they would run with him out there. Maybe not for a longer amount of time, but maybe a more critical amount of time. So you want to make sure he's comfortable before you would send him off. But that's for that question. There's a lot of Watson questions today. Next question comes from, and let me get you on here real quick. Sorry about that, Ashton. Next question comes from Ashton, who says this: how good do you see JOK being in his career? Do you think he can blossom into superstardom eventually, or do you think he has a couple of Pro Bowl years? I personally think the Browns defensive scheme JOK excels in what they want him to do, and he seems to be able to play wherever also. Yeah, I would expect the perception of JOK and how good he's playing, and I would expect him to play better too, right? I'm not saying he's going to be like the same as he was last year, but he was really good last year. I expect the perception of people of his play to be much higher, just because I think he's going to be asked to be around the ball more, because they're going to put him around the ball more often. So he'll make more plays on the football. So, yeah, I think JOK is primed to have a good year. I think if you're going to pick players who could have breakout seasons, JOK is not a terrible bet. Next question comes from Ben, who says, will we see a lot of what Perry could do in training camp? Will he be going one-on-one against the starting lineman? And would it be cool to see him beat them in a couple of times? Something crazy like that. What is most interesting with Perry Winfrey to me isn't what he would do on one-on-ones. We know how one-on-ones kind of go. It's not really an indicator of anything when it comes to what you would do on the field. What I'm interested to see with Perry Winfrey is how he is in a similar situation where he shined in the Senior Bowl. You put him at 3-tech. Maybe he's with the ones. He'll probably start with the 2s or the 3s. And you want to see how he handles being a 3-tech in the NFL against NFL offensive linemen. We saw him do it against prospective NFL offensive linemen, and he looked excellent. The question with Perry is, how much of a difference is that switch to 3-tech going to be to cover up some of his weaknesses, or will that make his strength so big that it doesn't matter? That's the big question. I want to see Perry in 11-on-11s. I want to see him at 3-tech, and I want to see what he does there, and if that looks like the Senior Bowl. Because if that is the guy that we saw at the Senior Bowl is closer to the player that Perry Winfrey ends up becoming than what he showed at 1-tech or 0 at Oklahoma, then the Browns really got to steal in the 4th round, right? Because that dude at the Senior, like, that was the best player at the Senior Bowl, hands down. All those first-round picks, Perry Winfrey was the best player, I think, in my opinion, at the Senior Bowl from what I saw. At his position, anywhere else, he was the best player. He was Senior Bowl MVP from the defensive tackle position. He was the best player there. So if he looks anything like he did in the Senior Bowl, get excited, because you definitely got one right there, right? Like, if it's against the 2s, like, temper it. But if he does this to Joe Bitonio or somebody like that, then yeah, obviously get excited, because that's going to run if he does this against the 1s. But even if he does this against the 2s, you have reason to think that you have something there, and that his real issue at Oklahoma was his position placement and his coaching, not necessarily his talent and work ethic, right? So there is that. We'll see. I'm excited to see what Perry does in that situation. Next question comes from Master Des, who says, what skill set does Deshaun Watson bring to the table to help the Browns achieve the ultimate goal of the Super Bowl? Why is it so hard to win with the average guy like Baker Mayfield? Let the vids keep things up. This is a good question, because some people will see Baker Mayfield and go, he's good enough to win a Super Bowl with, right? And yeah, if certain things go right. And that's the problem, right? Now, basically, in general, no matter how good your quarterback is, in order to win a Super Bowl, so many things have to go right for you. I know people make fun of the Bengals for having like a lucky Super Bowl run, but that's honestly what it takes sometimes. You need luck on your side to win a Super Bowl. The Patriots had the best team I've ever seen in my life in 2007. They still lost a Super Bowl. It takes a certain amount of luck to win the Super Bowl. Like, it just does. And the better quarterback you have, the less amount of luck you have to rely on. Think about 2020. The amount of fortune the Browns had in 2020. They had a great offensive line. Nick Chubb had a career year when it comes to efficiency. You had a healthy, well, Jarvis wasn't healthy all year, but he played all year. You had relative health on the offensive side of football, and you caught some teams extremely unhealthy when you played them. And you were just, it was a really fortunate run during 2020. Things went wrong in the micro. Absolutely. You had some injuries go down, the COVID stuff. Yeah, in the micro, things definitely went wrong. And every team has stuff that goes wrong in the micro. But when you zoom out and look at the macro, not that much went wrong in the Browns for 2020. And even when you get there, right, you get to the playoffs. And yeah, some things have gone wrong. You don't have your starting tackles. But you get to the point, and also the Rashard Higgins play, but you get to the point to where Patrick Mahomes is not out there for most of the game. I think he was out for the whole fourth quarter. Case, whatever, throws the interception to give you the ball, and you don't get that drive, right? Now, I think it was a poorly called drive by Kevin Stefanski. I think even he will admit that. But you get what I'm saying here. All of that luck that the Browns got in 2020, and it still only got them through the divisional round. And it still got them an L to the Chiefs. You need a level of luck in the NFL to win a Super Bowl. And in order to manage that variable of luck, you need really good quarterback play. What skill set does Watson bring? Watson is going to be able to find the basic stuff, right? Just the basic stuff, where Baker just had an inability to make his life easier by just making reads to get the chains moving, right? Like, how many times have we seen him miss a running back or a tight end in the flat that would have just got 7 yards, bring them closer to like a 2nd and 2 so they can run the ball on 2nd down, get the first down. Baker did not make his life easier in that way with his decision making. Deshaun Watson on the field will make his life easier with his decision making on the football field. We'll see about everything else. He also is more athletic. Obviously, it means that you're not going to have to worry about as many sacks, and he can scramble out there, get a first down every once in a while. So that's also that. He's more accurate. He's just a flat-out better quarterback than Baker Mayfield. More accurate, better at finding what's open, better in the red zone. Like, all of these things he's just better at. And you need to be really good in order to manage the variable of luck that you're going to have to rely on to win a Super Bowl. And that's basically the will of it all, right? Like, in order for you to win the Super Bowl with Baker Mayfield, it's not just going to take you having luck for your own team, but you're going to have luck of the draw, because you can't beat the Chiefs with him. The Browns have tried twice. Can't do it, right? It's like the Toronto Raptors if you watch basketball. And I know I go cross sport a lot, but it's like the Toronto Raptors if you watch basketball. They needed to trade for Kawhi Leonard because they couldn't get past LeBron James with DeMar DeRozan. It just wasn't going to be enough. DeMar's cool. DeMar's a good player, but DeMar's really only going to get you to the second round consistently. He's not good enough to get you past a dude like LeBron. And what the Browns saw was, hey, when we play against Lamar Jackson, we lose. We struggle to keep up. When we play against Patrick Mahomes, we lose. We struggle to keep up. When we play against Justin Herbert, we lose. We struggle to keep up. We need somebody who we feel like can go toe-to-toe with them. So we don't have to rely on like 5 turnovers for the defense or something like that to win that game. And that's just what it is, right? They needed somebody they felt like can go toe-to-toe with those guys. They didn't think Baker was that guy. A lot of people don't think Baker's that guy. But that's pretty much it. Thank you for the question. Next question comes from Matt, who says, no one is talking about the possibility of us signing Julio Jones, even though we're 4th in the odds to get him. I'm at this point in his career, the best team to ring chase with. We have enough cap space to sign him. Yeah, I don't think the Browns are going to go with Julio Jones. I think they're out on all the wide receivers. Like, maybe if this David Bell injury becomes more severe, then they look at somebody to bring in. But I think they're fine with what they have here. But thank you for the question. Next question comes from Ralph Miller, who says, with Kyler Murray signing his contract, do you think Lamar Jackson is close to a new deal, or is he moving out the division? They're definitely at the fork in the road, right? They're definitely at the fork in the road. If you're the Baltimore Ravens, either you give them that money or you wait this out and you really run the risk of losing a franchise quarterback. We'll see what the Ravens do, but I made this point on Twitter. I'll make it here briefly again. They have fumbled this, right? Like, this deal should have gotten done before Josh Allen, and it would have been at like $42 million. Now they're really looking $55 million with like $250 of it guaranteed in the face, because not only did Deshaun Watson get more money than what Josh Allen did per year, and it was all guaranteed, but Kyler Murray got more money. And you can't look me straight in the face and tell me you would rather have Kyler Murray than Lamar Jackson. Like, some people will say that, but those people are full of shit. Like, it's not a real thing. You can't tell me that you wouldn't rather have the former MVP. You wouldn't rather have that guy than Kyler Murray. So they backed themselves into this corner. And I said this again on social media. Follow me on Quincy on Twitter. But I said this. If any other team had handled this situation like this, especially like a team like the Browns, if they had Lamar Jackson and his contract was coming up and they watch all these deals go by and they're just watching the price go up and up, even though they could have signed him a long time ago, hey, they would be dragged through the mud for being dysfunctional, rightfully so, right? The Ravens have been, I wouldn't say dysfunctional, but they fumbled this whole situation. Like, they have not handled this well. They have either cost themselves a franchise quarterback, worst case scenario, or best case scenario, about $14-15 million a year. They did that to themselves. They really did. And if this is, and I hear this all the time, well, how do we know Lamar wants to come to the table? From Raven fans, they say this, right? How do we know Lamar wants to come to the table? He might not want to negotiate. Bro, that's even worse if he doesn't want to negotiate a contract right now. Because if he's in his 5th-year option and he doesn't want to negotiate a deal, he wants to go. Like, he might see this year out, but he might look at next year and say, hey, I don't think this is right for me. Like, either way, him not being under contract, and if this gets to September, that's the deadline for me. Him not being under contract before the first game of the year is a bad thing, and there's no way you could spend that into anything neutral or positive for the Ravens. That's not good for them. Either it's going to cost them more money or a franchise quarterback. Complete mishandling of this situation by the Baltimore Ravens. Like, or maybe Lamar don't want to be there no more. I think it's more or less the Ravens mishandling this than Lamar, because it seems like Lamar wants to be there. But it also seems like the Ravens don't want to give him what he's due, which is the bag. But they don't want to give him that, which is ridiculous to me, because if Lamar Jackson were on the Cleveland Browns, I would have that money at his door 2 years ago. If you imagine if we was waiting for Myles Garrett, wait until the 5th-year option to re-sign Myles Garrett. That would be ridiculous. All right. The next question comes from Saint830, who says, how much does Brissett change the offensive plans, and how many points can we score over Deshaun Watson? I mean, Brissett's going to change the plans. Like I said earlier, he's only really going to be opening up about 50% of that playbook. You're definitely going to be able to score more points with Deshaun Watson. And that's why Deshaun's going to get more reps in training camp, because, again, Deshaun's going to be asked to do more in this offense than Jacoby is. Jacoby, if you need him to do anything out the ordinary, you would normally plan for that during the week. With Deshaun, you're going to want to pull things out, but year one's going to be year one. But that's it for this week's Q&A. I want to thank you guys for asking all of these questions. Y'all have a great day. Have a good night.